We're live. Kufar, Akbar, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Cross and the Crescent discussion group. This is a YouTube streamed weekly show that is dedicated rightly to dividing the truth between Christianity and Islam. We are here every Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and generally we stay here for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Today we might be a little bit slower because you can tell by the way I sound, I do not feel well. I even did not go to church this morning, which is very unusual. I usually am in church 50 out of the 52 weeks of the year, and the other times it's because we're traveling or we're doing something where we can't get to church. And when we are traveling, we do go to churches. I've gone to Catholic services. That's we've gone to Methodist services. What else we got? We go to, of course, Lutheran services and general Protestant. And anyway, we generally go. Every time
you sound like crap.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate that. Yeah, I do. That's how I feel too. That's I've been in the recliner all day. And here's what happened. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. Yesterday, my wife and my grandson and I went down to the Titan Stadium and ran a 5K. I have not run a 5K in probably 3 or 4 years because of the back and knee problem, ankle problem, that I've been having. And I think it might be just a combination of being really stiff from yesterday, breathing that deeply for that long of a period. I don't know, but it's absolutely...
Well, that's the thing. I was going to take up running, but then I read the Bible, and it said the wicked flee when no one is chasing them, and the righteous stand still.
You sound like a Muslim, taking it out of context, trying to make your own application for your own gratification. Stop it. You sound like a
but I think what really happened is you were exposed to biological weapons again. That time of year.
Yeah, well, the kids, and this is the thing. At the beginning of every school year, I always get sick. They always bring in these new sicknesses and diseases, and you just have to get through it. That's all. Okay.
Hey, we can defeat the Russians and Ukraine just parachute in a couple, a few thousand first and second graders. Take them all out.
Yeah, that'd be. What'd you say? What was that? The second graders? What?
First or second graders, biological warfare, just send them right in.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what they do. They bring in every germ that you could possibly imagine ever existing, and you have to develop that. I know the first year I was teaching, I was sick from August to Thanksgiving, literally sick. And Thanksgiving, wow. I had to go to the ER because I had this upper respiratory infection, and it was so every time I start feeling a little bit sick, I always start on those Z-Packs, or not Z-Packs, the vitamin C stuff, just start boosting it up. But I didn't go fast enough this year, evidently. Okay. Today, we're going to be discussing once again Quranic plagiarism. We only got through just a little bit of it last week because I spent way too much time on the Sana manuscript. Now, the Sana manuscript, if you did not listen to last week's show, I would highly encourage you to go to last week's show and listen to it. And the reason why is because the Sana manuscript is the oldest known manuscript out there. You can cite the Birmingham Folio. That's just a couple verses from things that pre-existed in Islam anyway. But the Sana manuscript. Now, the Sana manuscript is the important thing to understand. I'm going to go through that again. Yes, it's a palimpsest. XYZ's all over it already. It is a palimpsest, and we discussed that at length last week and why that is important. So we're going to briefly cover that again. Just as a reminder, let me see here. I have to get this up. Okay, there we go. All right. So we're going to continue with that. We're just going to briefly touch the Sana manuscript, and then we're going to go into other verses within the Quran itself, and talk about how those, where we know the origins of those were, or where they came from. And I'm going to put verses side by side, and I'll let you decide, whether is this, did Muhammad maybe hear this story from someplace else and now he's incorporating it as divine revelation? I'll let you decide. But when we look at the enormity of the number of passages out there, it's just absolutely crazy. And I didn't even hardly scratch the surface with this thing. If you go to what book is that? It is Tisdale Sinclair. I don't have it in front of me. You think I would have been better prepared for that. I'm sorry. But he has a wonderful book that I've gotten a lot of the information from. It's not over there either. Sorry. All right. Let's just get to the slideshow. All right. So this week we're going to look at the plagiarized Quran, and I have a whole bunch of news articles that I was going through this morning. And we're going to cover those if we get through this slideshow quick enough. Okay, so last week it was plagiarized 1,000%. This week we're doing 2,000%. If we don't get through it this week, and next week it'll be 3,000%. I even put a little magnifying glass on here. I'm pretty proud of myself of the artwork that I'm able to do. Okay, so what Muslims believe about the Quran has divine origin. And that's what we're focused on. We've talked about before. At length the three-legged stool that is Islam, which is Muhammad, the Quran, and Mecca. We've already kicked out that link for Mecca, and now we're going to discuss the Quran. Yes, thank you, our Dragon in the chat. Share, subscribe to the channel, folks. We went over 700 subscribers last week. I was glad to see that. So if you're new to the show, go ahead and subscribe. We're here every week. Okay, what else about the Quran? It's supposed to be inerrant, which we're going to show today. It is not. It's supposed to be a guidance for mankind, which it is not. 65.4, 65.4, 65.4, and 929, 98.6. I could name a dozen verses off of my head about this, and when you look at it, it's not for mankind. It's only for a certain group of people who are willing to believe that Muhammad was a prophet. It's supposed to be a linguistic miracle, which it's not. It's supposed to be perfectly preserved, which it is not. So we were talking about last week, even in the Quran itself, it was talking about mere fables of old. It's in there 4 times that Muhammad was accused of plagiarizing it. I think if you're accused 4 times and it stays in the Quran, that there may be some truth to that. I don't know. Okay, so the Sana manuscript we talked about extensively last week. There's a couple articles that I want to show you that discuss the Sana manuscript. And the reason why the Sana manuscript is important is because it's the oldest Quran out there. Of course, it was discovered in Yemen in 1972 when they were reconstructing a mosque there, the Grand Mosque in Yemen. It is a palimpsest, meaning that the bottom writings, the under writings have been washed off and the skin was reused for the Quran. Now, that's important. Stay with me on that. And when they do that, it leaves scratch marks of where it was originally written. And you can read using ultraviolet light and some type of chemicals what was underneath the original script. And what was underneath the original script is not what is on the overscript. And I'm going to show you that here in just a second. It's not the same as the overwriting. And when we think of Uthman, he compiled and distributed the Quran between 650 and 656 AD. So the Quran was supposedly written by Uthman in 650 AD. That's the earliest that we have for Uthman. All right. So when we think of Uthman, 650 AD, and then when we look at the dates of the Sana manuscript, look at the dates. 650 is the date for Uthman. And you come up here to this first one, the Codex. This is the Sana Codex, the one done in Arizona. This is the only one that even gets it close for Muslims. And the reason why is that these are average dates. It has a date from 578, so it could be as early as 578 and as late as 669, which is only 19 years after Uthman. But if you go with the mean date, you're probably sitting around 520, or I'm sorry, 620 or so. This one, same thing, but even worse. This one, the ending date, the last date for this one is when Uthman would have been the earliest that Uthman would have written this. This one right here, this date right here, okay, that provides a, within that window of 650. However, when we take the mean or the average, you're backing it up into the 630s. This one, again, the end date is 650. That's when Uthman was supposed, so that'd be the latest that it could be. And this one, 595 to, again, the mean date is absolutely ridiculous. But now when you get down here, look at these dates. This is 2 centuries before Muhammad, 430. And that's the end date for that, the one that was done in Germany. That's the end date that one was done. Same thing here with here in France. This is before Uthman. The end date, the last possible date, is before Uthman, 7 years before Uthman could have written it. This one is, again, this is a century before Muhammad. 433, really? To 599, that's before Muhammad even was supposed to receive his first revelation. And again, a full century, 388 to 533. This is before Muhammad's even born. And that's the end date. That's 40 years before he was born, 35 years before he was born. And that's the end date. And again, here, we're up against an end date that is not consistent to the standard Islamic narrative. So when we look at the palimpsest of the Sana manuscript, it is clear, it is abundantly clear that this manuscript predates the Quran. So how can you have a Quran that predates Muhammad, that predates the Quran? How is that possible? Now, I read quite a few articles this week dealing with the Sana manuscript. And exactly, Dominic, this assumes that Uthman even existed. And this is a point that I was not aware of, but we do not find any of the 4 Rushideen caliphs, Abu Bakr, Omar, Uthman, or Ali, in any literature outside of Islamic literature. That in and of itself is crazy when we think about, how can you have it? How can you take over half of the world or conquer 2/3 of Christendom? Well, let's just say they got up to Omar is the one that sacked the library in Alexandria, and you still had Ali pushing eastward into Persia, the Sasanian Empire. But for Pete's sake, I mean, if you don't have any buddy mentioning, hey, here came Al Ali. Him and his army, they attacked us and they were worshiping, following this prophet named Muhammad and worshiping this God named Allah. And they had this book called Quran. Nobody says that during that time. Nobody says that during that time. That should be problematic. But when you look at this Dasana manuscript, let me bring this thing down here. Let me bring it down. I'm going to bring up, let's see here. Nope, that did not work. I have an article here. What did I do here? What is this nonsense? That's not what I wanted. There we go. Okay, this article talks about the Sana. It says here the Sana manuscripts are the oldest manuscript that still exists today. Let's see, it comes from the Sana, Great Mosque of Sana, 72. When studied, it was confirmed to be a palimpsest. This means that the text was written, the upper text on it, and therefore the most recent was identified to conform to the set. Look at this part right here. The upper text conforms to the standard Quran compiled by Muhammad Uthman. The upper text. This is what it's extant today. The lower text, this is important. The lower text could only be read through the use of ultraviolet light, as it had been erased and overwritten. The text underneath the standard wording of the Quran was different. Was what? It's different. It was still the Quran, but the phrasing was not the same. It was different. Did we catch that? So you have the Quran, the Sana manuscript clearly demonstrates that the Quran that we have today is not the Quran at the time of Muhammad. Or it very well may be. No, it's not. Because when we look at the Quran that we have today in the Sana manuscript, number one, it predates Muhammad. How can you have a book given by Muhammad, recited by Muhammad, that predates Muhammad? How is that possible? So when we start talking about the Quran and slam dunk evidence that clearly demonstrates that this has been I don't want to say a fabrication, but it definitely has been a work in progress, and we can see how it progressed to its current state and how they've made changes in a lot of different. This isn't just the Sana manuscript. You have the Tashkent. You have was it Parametropolis or something? I can't remember the name of all of them. But a lot of these have erasures, overwritings, changes that have been made. So if the Quran has been perfectly preserved, how can it be perfectly preserved when we know that the Quran that existed at the time, there was a Quran that existed at the time of Muhammad? It makes absolutely zero sense to believe this. But if you engage somebody, if you engage a Muslim on this, they will go to their grave denying these things. Now, there's something else here. Here we go. This was another article that I had right here. Share. Okay, this is exposing Islam without fear. Now, this, folks, this is not Islamophobia. Let's just make sure we get that perfectly clear. This is not Islamophobia. This is what we call textual criticism. Every book on the planet is subject to textual criticism. What most Dawagandists don't want, and will sit there and call you all kinds of nasty little names, trying to say that you're a hater, a bigot, of something, a phobe, all these things, in order to prevent you from providing that textual criticism. The Bible went through it. Did people criticize the Bible? Are they like Christophobes or something? No, this is what we call scholarship. You can go in there and you can look at the text of the Bible, and you can, try to figure out when it was written, what has been changed, what are the variants within it. And now we are getting access to a lot of these old manuscripts where we can go in there and we can see the same thing with the Quran. But the difference is that you have a certain group yelling bloody murder when we do it. Tough. It's 2023. Get over it. The gig's up. Right here, it says the upper text does not have too much variations from the Quran that we read today. However, now notice, The upper text does not have too much variations from the Quran that we read today. So the Quran we read today does indeed differ from the Sana manuscript, the upper writing of the Sana manuscript. So we know it has not been perfectly preserved. And anybody that says it has been perfectly preserved is either A, ignorant of the latest research, or B, lying to you, trying to weaken your faith. And that's not going to happen here. But look what it goes on to say. However, the lower text has more than 100 variations from today's Qurans. Words are totally omitted in many places, whereas they are replaced with new words in other places. Now you have all kinds of different examples here within the Quran itself. And let's see, this is Exposing Islam Without Fear.blogspot.com. I would invite you to go there if you want the link to the article. Email me and I'll send you a link to the article. But the bottom line is that the gig's up for this perfect preservation of the Quran. And here's the point that we're trying to make. It does not have a divine origin. How can it have a divine origin if thank you, XYZ, Dan Brubaker has done all kinds of work on this stuff. Yep. And I think he's up over, somebody said there's like 90,000 variants between the Qurans that we have today. Hatun Tash, who was on Usama's show Saturday night. Oh, by the way, I invite you to go there and check that, or go to Paul Sutliff's show or YouTube channel, and you can see Hatun on there. And she was one that basically exposed this idea that there isn't just one Hafs Quran out there. There's the Wash, and there's all kinds. There's 37, I think, is the number that that she came up with. Okay, let's go ahead and get back to the slideshow. So when we start looking at the different, let me put this over here, put this right here, laser pointer, there we go. When we look at verses within the Quran, we can see that Muhammad got these revelations, not from an angel, Gabriel. He got them from pre-existent text that existed prior to the 7th century. And this one that I'm going to show you right here is a slam dunk for realizing that Muhammad ripped this material off from the Jews surrounding him. Now remember, as Islam pushed eastward into the Persian Empire, there was a large population of Jews that had been left over from the Babylonian captivity. And they developed this tradition of this Mishnah tradition of people who would tell these stories or commentaries on the Torah. And as Muslims moved into that area, they picked up on this and developed this tradition of the Hadith. So when we look at the Hadith literature, this is which is so obvious. When we look at the later Hadith that are recited, for example, if you have a Hadith that originally was supposed to have been given by Muhammad, and it starts out like in the 640s, okay? By the time you have Hadith in the 9th century, I mean, the length of these Hadith they grow. So how can you get more information if Muhammad was, supposed to say A, B, C, and then now 100 years later it says Muhammad said A, B, C, D, E, F, and G? How does that happen? Well, it becomes obvious that it was embellished. This is right there. Mecca didn't exist even when Abraham. It didn't exist when Muhammad was alive. That's even the worst part about it. And we've done all kinds of work on that. Let's see. There was what is this, Dominic? What is this? J must be at least 100, and there was a reader and counterpart, and you determined that there were no readers from the Hijaz area, and that they were not trying to preserve the accuracy more based on, I don't understand that. I'm sorry. Based on popularity. Okay. All right. So chapter 5, verse 32 of the Quran. We've all heard this. We heard this last week or a couple weeks ago when that guy went crazy up in North Dakota with those. I think he had 3 long rifles, 4 handguns, 1,800 rounds of ammunition, a couple bombs, homemade bombs with all kinds of just nasty stuff. And in order to demonstrate how peaceful the teachings of the Quran are, this is the verse that is cited every single time. Whoops. Come on, Caver. Terrible. Let me go back up here. Okay, so 532. It says, because we have ordained that the children of Israel, that if anyone killed a person not in retaliation of murder. Okay, so we've read this passage how many times on this show? I don't know. But when you compare 532 to mid Mishnah 4.5, you can't help but notice the similarities. And I'm not going to go through them all. If you want to come back and watch this, I mean, if any man saves alive a single soul from Israel, if anyone saved alive, it imputes to him as though he saved alive the whole world. It would be as if he saved the life of all mankind. So, you know, the similarities between these two passages are crazy. This is, and we get this from a Jewish commentary of a legal decision. Who's up on the mic? Is that you?
I am. I got something to say.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. So in case you guys haven't been paying attention, which we have been, because we're in the show, we do this for an actual living. We have to get paid by the Jews to do this. But
hey, Brad, I just want to tell you that I got my bucket of cash yesterday. They brought it to the house, but we weren't here, so they had to leave it on the front porch. Yeah.
Okay, all right. But yeah, I wish I could get that bucket of cash.
Well, I'm going to have to pay taxes. I have to pay taxes on it because look, I'm not Hunter. I have to pay taxes. I have to.
Last name's not Biden, huh?
No.
All right. But no. So there are some hadiths out there, or maybe it's in one of the Sirat. Like what's that guy's name? Ibn Ishaq or whatever his name is, where they're discussing about how the Jews are actually selling Muhammad their Talmud, their Mishnah, okay, and they're like selling them stuff that's like totally incorrect, and he's quoting it as scripture, and they're laughing themselves silly at it because like if he was a prophet, he would know that this is what we're selling this crap here. But anyway, so very clearly early on you have. Okay, this is very, I mean, there are theories out there, PhD level theories, where Islam is an actual offshoot of, it's a heretical sect of Judaism. It kind of started out that way as a heretical sect of Judaism, and then they ran into, you got the COVID, dude?
I got something.
Yeah.
I got the correct.
Anyway. But they're spreading out the, it kind of became like a universal thing where they try to unite Christians in there together, sort of thing. But either way, what you definitely have here is Muhammad borrowing from Jewish sources, which, according to the Hadith and other Islamic literature, he's buying it from the Jews. He has to, as a prophet, purchase this knowledge from Jews. And they're selling it to him, okay? And that's why you're getting all this stuff. He's no scientific or Talmud scholar. He doesn't know this stuff. He's actually buying it from other people, according to Islamic sources. So there you have it. There's your prophet, the great Muhammad.
But haven't we been told
scripture from Jews? Huh?
Haven't we been told recently that we can't trust those Islamic sources because
only if they've been written in Iraq. Evidently, those Iraqis can't be trusted, which you probably know better than I do.
Well, let me just say this about that. This is where that tradition it developed, is when after the Umayyad empire collapsed and the Abbasids took over, they moved the capital from Damascus to Baghdad. And this is where you have the development of the Hadith literature. And it comes over 100 years after the fact. After, let's see, the Abbasids, that was 6 or 750. So what is that, 120 years after the death of Muhammad, you have the Abbasid. Am I right on that? Somebody fact check me on the Abbasid Empire. But I'm fairly certain it was like 750 or somewhere around there. And you're right. This is where you have, you have these people writing against one another for political reasons. And this is one of those cases where it comes up with where they come in contact with the Jewish writings. Muhammad would have come in contact with these Jewish writings if indeed, number one, he existed. Number two, there were Jews in Mecca, they were not in Mecca, they were in Medina. The was it Bana Quraiza, the Bana Kanuka, and the Bana Nadir?
Bada Zam.
Bada Bing, yeah. All of them.
And you're
yes.
right, it's 750.
Is it 750? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Connie's here.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it amazing? Connie's she took the summer off. They went to. I saw pictures of her going to Florida and having, what was that thing? The dolphins were chasing your boat, or what was that?
Yeah, it's a dolphin rider that you ride. You end up going into the Gulf of Mexico, and that's when they start chasing the boat. Yeah, it's a 2-hour drive. It was a blast.
Looks like that'd be cool, seeing the dolphins.
Well, I was just gonna say really quickly, it's too bad Muhammad didn't have all those Jews killed, because maybe he would have learned something about Judaism. I'm just saying.
Which Jews is that?
If he existed. Well, the Bani something or other.
Oh, well, he did.
Beni Israel.
Khyber or whatever, yeah.
Right, the Bana Kanuka, he had exiled. The Bana Quraiza, not the Bana Quraiza, the Bana Nadir. He banished and took everything. And then the Bana Quraiza, he did slaughter all the men, anybody had pubic hair, you died. So he did slaughter them. He got rid of all the Jews in Medina with it. Was it 3 years? I think it is 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. And see, this is another thing. Let this be a lesson to you all who are like, oh, we're sanctuary cities, we're open borders and stuff like that. Time and time again, history has shown you be friendly to foreigners, strangers in a strange land, you invite them in, and what happens? Same thing happens with the Native American when they were really nice to us Europeans when they took us into Mayflower. And the same thing happened. They took, the Medinans, they took in Muhammad. In 3 years, he pretty much had them butchered all.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? There's a definite pattern to this. I'm just saying, I'm not saying that those south of the border are invading us to kill us all. But I am saying there's a definite pattern. Just saying. And that is all I'm going to say.
Dominic posted this in chat. Wasn't Judaism started by Ezra, according to the Quran? The Quran said, this is what it says in chapter 9, verse 30. Right, this is right after 29, 9:29. Fight those who do not believe in Allah in the last day. Okay. It says, and the Jews said, Uzair, which is supposed to be Ezra, is the son of Allah. And then Asara, which is kind of a nasty term for the Christians, said, the Christ is the son of Allah. This is their saying with their mouths. They repeat the sayings of those who became infidels before. Allah engages in war with them, and how perverted they are. This is where you have the claim, according to Muhammad, that the Jews consider Uzair or Ezra or worship Ezra the same as Christians worship Christ as the Son of God. Nowhere, there is no, let me make sure we understand this, there is no Jewish group out there that has ever considered Ezra as the Son of God and worshiped him. But yet it's in the Quran. So, it's absolutely absurd to think that this has some type of divine origin. But that's when we were talking about the wrong stories are in there. Abbasids. What are you talking about, Dominic? The Abbasids 566? That's not right. That's the 566? 566. That's before Muhammad. What is this? Is this a typo?
No, it's all on the internet if you look at it, because I did a copy and paste, and some websites say that. So yeah.
That the Islamic Abbasid Empire was in five. Islam didn't exist in five, whatever that. What was it? Five? Let me see here. The Abbasid Empire did not exist. Islam didn't exist. Muhammad wasn't born until 570. How can that be true? Let me type it in here. Doggone y'all. You guys, some days I feel like I'm losing my mind. It's okay. The Abbasid Caliphate was the third caliphate to succeed the Islamic prophet Muhammad. Second great dynasties. It overthrew the Umayyad Caliphate in 750. That's a real reliable source. That's the Encyclopedia Britannica. We know how accurate they are all the time, right? They're like, you trust them people. Yeah, the Abbasids at 750 to 1250. I didn't realize that they lasted that long, but that's okay. Let's see. What are you right here? Wrong. It's 750. Dominic pushes it out to 750. What would that be? 750, 820 years now that they existed. That's a long time.
That just really shows you how Islam is just so confused.
It is. You can't establish a normative history with it. We've been through this for the past. It's going to be kind of the theme of this show. The last month and a half is showing how disjointed their history is, or how non-existent their history is. We did a show 2 weeks ago on how they're going out and destroying archaeological digs. They did it to Mecca, and there's a picture that I showed. It doesn't matter. I had shown where they had dug down in Mecca in order to build these high-rise apartments right next to the Kaaba, right where you would have had this history going on. And they didn't find one piece of evidence that the city existed in the 7th century, let alone going clear back to the time of Abraham, when it's supposed to have been existed. Or you can go all the way back to, what was it? Adam and Eve were supposed to have existed or lived there at some point in time. It's just, I don't know, it's crazy. All right, so the plagiarism. This is a Jewish commentary of a legal decision and has nothing to do with scriptures. It was written by a Jew. There are 5 separate points of congruence in this passage, just very short passage alone. And when we talk to, when we hear the Islamic apologists come out after there's been an attack, this is the one that is often quoted. But I think somebody posted in the chat that this pertains to the Jews. Who was that did that? I did not say, but if you look here, because of what we ordain for the children of Israel, it has nothing to do with Muslims. It has nothing to do with Muslims, and has everything to do with the Jews. And it's borrowed. We know this is borrowed. But look what follows in 533. Look what follows. Let's see. Indeed, the penalty for those who wage war against Allah and his messenger and strive upon the earth to cause corruption is none but that they be killed or crucified, and that their hands and feet be cut off from opposite sides, and that they be exiled from the land. That is for them a disgrace. So they're going to be crucified, and they're going to be killed, and they're going to have hands and feet cut off at opposite sides, or being exiled. So much for a peaceful part of this religion. All right, folks, I hate to do this. I really do. I really hate to do this, but I am feeling like crap. I don't know.
You're ending it. Come on, suck it up.
I can't.
Come on,
I feel terrible.
super duper airborne super trooper.
I'm going to go back out to my
100%,
recliner.
come on.
No, we'll have to finish this up next week.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is our finest right here.
No, I just, sometimes you get tired. I thought, well, maybe I could nug on through this, but it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And I'm feeling terrible. And plus I have to work tomorrow. So
Dude, don't you just wish you could go back to the days of COVID where,
I could teach remotely from the Kafir Casa.
Dude, I am regretting traveling all those miles to protest to open up the state of Illinois. And then we got what we wanted, and now I'm like, dude, this sucks. I got to go into the office. I got to sit on a train with strangers. I got to sit there and, deal with people that I really don't particularly like anymore. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
It's
Well, I
just
remember
tragic.
some of those train rides that you would
I'd film, yeah.
Yeah.
I should do more of that, dude. I should do more of that. That's what I should do, especially now that I got the cool GoPro strap on. That didn't sound right. But no, the cool GoPro chest mount. Because, no, it's this magnetic plate that you wear around your neck, but you wear it underneath your shirt. And then you just attach the GoPro so it's really tiny. And you can kind of cover it up, with like a vest or something. And it actually doesn't stand out like you're an idiot.
we ought to get one. We got to get one to Steve out there in California.
Well, we sent him that one, but he doesn't use it though.
I know. I wanted to get some action photos with him because you talk about a guy that is up, right up in their face.
He's in your face, dude.
Yeah, he is.
He's in the battle. We got to capture that beheading.
Well, he hasn't been beheaded yet.
Yeah, but we're still hoping.
And plus, now he's got a wife. His wife ain't gonna let him do that.
Yeah, no, she's out there with them. She's.
I know that's the thing.
Too.
She's the one that's gonna beat their behinds if they even get close to them.
Right.
Yeah.
She don't know if she take no business, man.
Yeah. Okay. So I am cutting it short, guys. I apologize. Hopefully next week I'll.
42 minutes.
So is this what you would have done if you was in a firefight in Iraq or Afghanistan or Panama or wherever? You'd be saying, "Sorry, guys, I'm not feeling very well. We got to call this one. We got to say no, sorry, stop shooting at us."
That's when you call in an airstrike when that happens.
Stay hydrated, Eric.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, take care of yourself. We'll pray for you, sir.
I appreciate it. Okay, guys. Thank
right,
you. I love you guys.
All
We'll
right.
see you next Sunday. I'll be better by then. I promise you. God bless you.
Better be. All right, go back.
Well, night.
Play the cold close, cold close, cold close.
Oh, I almost did it.
Advanced student and specialist, that the standard narrative has holes. That's what
that the Muslims were rioting against one another. And as much as we don't want to face the fact, the Muslims were lying sometimes. They were fabricating, they were embellishing, and that might be hard to accept, but that is a reality.
That's all, folks.